Am I the jerk for telling my sister-in-law I won't change my 4-month-old daughter's name for her? I gave birth to my daughter, Ember, 4 months ago. My husband and I both loved her name, and that's how it was chosen. We announced the day she was born, and nobody said anything negative or gave a reason for us not to use it then. 3 days ago, my sister-in-law, who is married to my brother, sat me down and asked me to change the name because it is the name of her stillborn daughter she had with her ex-husband 7 years ago. She told me she tried to keep it quiet, but she couldn't let me keep calling my daughter Ember because it is such a painful reminder for her. She told me she really feels like we should change her name. I gently told my sister-in-law that my daughter was 4 months old. Her name is on the birth certificate and it would cost us to change it, so we will not. She told me she tried so hard not to say anything, and the fact she did eventually break and bring this up should show how hard this is for her and make me more willing to change the name for her sake. I told my husband about it afterward, and he felt the same way I did. He told me it seemed like a weak excuse to wait 4, almost 5 months to tell us when she had the chance long before this. My brother found out about the conversation with his wife. He reached out and told me she mentioned it to him 2 months ago and that she was battling with asking us to change the name since, but he understands why I said no and supports the decision. Yesterday, she reached out to me again and asked me if we had decided on a new name yet. I told her my answer is still no. She asked why, and I told her she waited 4 months to tell us. She became very angry very quickly and told me if she had lost my niece, my response would be different. She said I should see this as her losing my niece because she would have been if she were alive. She also told me my daughter is going to grow up always hearing about the cousin I gave her the same name as, and that I should reconsider before burdening my daughter with that. She told me a good person with good morals would. I knew she had suffered a pregnancy loss, but it was implied she had a miscarriage far earlier and not a stillborn child. I never knew the name or sex. I never heard her use a name for her daughter. Am I the asshole? It's funny how she says your daughter will grow up hearing about her cousin Ember when you never even heard her child's name in all the years you've known her. If she wanted you to change the name, she should have brought it up immediately, and even then, it would be at your discretion. It seems unreasonable to ask for a name change at this point, especially since it hasn't been a topic of discussion before. Your brother should encourage her to seek professional help if this continues to be an issue. Am I the jerk for gifting my non-materialistic partner gifts that I like? I am dating my boyfriend, let's call him David. He is non-materialistic according to him, and he hardly buys anything other than clothes. We've been together for a little over 2 years. The first year for Christmas, I didn't buy him anything that I can think of, although we did spend time together and I cooked dinner for us. I think I made him a card for Valentine's Day, and I made one for his birthday and Father's Day. I designed the cards in Photoshop and print them on cardstock. It's nothing special, but I really do put a lot of effort into making them presentable. Our second Christmas together, we bought each other small gifts, nothing expensive or crazy. I bought him a little Funko Pop X-Men character he likes. I bought a wooden movie poster of his favorite Marx Brothers film and a heavy-duty poster for his office. He left these gifts at my house, and even today, they're still in my closet. Valentine's Day came up, and I will admit, I was a little disappointed he didn't get me a flower or a card. He said it wasn't a special day, and I felt a little silly for placing any importance on it. His birthday this year, I bought a bunch of balloons. I bought the kind which spell out Happy Birthday, a dozen regular balloons, and a little party hat. We got into an argument because he told me to get off my phone, and I told him I was in the middle of a sale. I have a small, maybe even tiny side hustle where I sell plants and art. I was on the phone for maybe 5 minutes closing the sale via text message, and he got upset and said he was going to leave. I told him I was barely on the phone, explained what I was doing, and asked why he was going. He told me that I didn't spend time with him on his birthday and didn't listen when he told me to get off my phone. I felt so guilty for doing something I thought to be insignificant. I was hurt because my effort to try and make the day special seemed overlooked, even though I only bought him balloons. Beforehand, I had asked him if there was anything he wanted as a gift, and he maintained he didn't want anything. I told him that I was trying to make the day special and that he didn't even care for my effort. I brought up Valentine's Day, where we didn't do anything special, and he said that I didn't get him anything either except a card. This matters because I was out today and decided to buy him a comic and a cute bouquet of flowers to show him appreciation. When I handed it to him, he just looked at the comic and said the flowers looked dry. He didn't even take it when I handed it to him. I had to tell him to hold it, and he just started talking about where he parked the car. It really ruined my mood, and he told me to stop acting like an asshole and that I only get him presents I like. I wanted to cry when he said that. I don't know why. Am I really an asshole? He gives no clues to what he wants but complained I didn't get him anything, and when I do, it's what I like. You did nothing wrong here. It's clear that he's not putting any effort into the relationship and then overreacting to make you feel bad. This kind of behavior is full of red flags and only shows that he is tactless, rude, and dismissive. As he gets older, this is only going to get worse, especially while you're still in the prime of your life. You deserve someone who appreciates your gifts and treats you with respect. Am I the jerk for refusing to work while my boss is on his phone? I work on a farm with my boss and his wife. I live in a room in their barn. They provide me with 2 meals a day. They pay me weekly. I feel the compensation I get is fair for the work I do. The three of us are supposed to be doing pretty equal amounts of work. His wife does less because she has a life outside of the farm, but she works when she's there. There's a lot to do, and it takes 12 hours with all of us pulling our weight. My boss likes to stop working to play on his phone. I've walked by and seen him scrolling through Facebook and Instagram or talking to people. I've started timing him, and he averages 1 hour on his phone 4 times a day. This totals 4 hours a day. He claims he's talking to clients, but I've seen him scrolling and heard him gossiping with his buddies during these times. I've also seen his wife scrolling on her phone while I'm working, but she doesn't do it as frequently. I have casually mentioned that I'm unhappy about my boss being on his phone all of the time, but haven't sat down with them and made a big deal out of it. Up until recently, I just noticed the phone usage and kept working, often picking up the pace and working harder so we can get done at a decent hour at night. But I'm sick of it and have recently started stopping work to play with the barn cats or scroll on my phone when I see my boss on his. He's noticed and has gotten angry that I'm not working. On the most recent occasion, I pointed out to him that he was just on his phone for an hour, and he snapped that he was talking to clients. I pulled up his Facebook and showed him the 2 posts that he had shared within the past hour, and he stormed away. Both he and his wife are now angry with me because of this and are threatening to fire me. I feel like I could be the asshole because I didn't sit down and have a conversation with them like I maybe should have. I just don't think it would have worked because my boss tends to explode when confronted, and he had snapped at me before when I casually mentioned his phone use. I just thought that maybe me being on my phone while he is on his would open his eyes to how much work I was doing while he was distracted. Am I the asshole? Everyone sucks here. Your boss is creating the pretense that you're all equal in this arrangement, but the clue is in the boss bit. He's the one running the business, so he gets to decide how his time is used. If you're unhappy with how things are, either talk to him about it or consider leaving. Am I the jerk for choosing to travel alone to my fiance's army graduation after my fill-in mother-in-law disrespected me? For context, my fiance, a 19-year-old male, and I, a 19-year-old female, have been together for over a year but have known each other for 15 years. We grew up together because his mother-in-law and my parents were good friends. We got engaged in December 2023. He signed his army contract in March 2024, got shipped out in April 2024, is set to graduate from basic military training in June 2024, and then advanced individual training in September 24. I've maintained a civil relationship with his mother-in-law and father-in-law, which has gone well for the last year. I've known his mother-in-law for a long time, but I hadn't met his father-in-law until mid-2023. They have been divorced for a very long time. The issues started last week when I got in contact with his father-in-law about the graduation. He told me that he didn't want me or my parents to go because it was too personal to share the day with anyone else. He also said the day was too important to him and that since my fiance and I are so young, we have time together when he comes back from advanced individual training. This upset me, but I didn't respond to him because I didn't want to say something disrespectful or cause more drama. It got resolved the next day when his mother-in-law and my mom discussed the issue. I was going to travel with his mother-in-law and she talked to his father-in-law about being okay with me tagging along. Now, on to the current issue with his mother-in-law. She is a boy mom and is used to being the most important woman to her husband and kids. I respect that she's their mom. However, I will not accept any disrespect. I had my weekly phone call with my fiance, where he told me that she was complaining about the tap out and wanted to do it, even though he wanted it to be me. In that moment, she texted me, informing me that she wanted to be the one to tap him out, and that even if I wanted to, it's what she wants. I responded hours later, saying that my fiance wanted me to do it, so what were we going to do? She quickly got defensive and said that she is his mom and because of that, it's going to be her, and that there would be no more arguing. She also lied about my fiance, telling her to say that when it wasn't true, because he and I were on the phone when she initially texted me. Since she said no more arguing, I didn't text back. Then, his father-in-law sent me another message. He told me that he didn't support certain things about my relationship with his son, and that since she is his mother who birthed him, it is her right to do the honors. He said that after this message, there would be no more contest. I don't know who's initiating any kind of competition or contest because it certainly isn't me. I've remained respectful and polite. After these conversations, I decided to back out of traveling with his mother-in-law and make my own travel arrangements. Clearly, I am disturbing the peace, so I'll travel alone to stay out of the way. I know when she sees my text, she will have something probably not so nice to say. Am I the asshole for choosing to travel on my own for my fiance's army graduation? Nothing you have done here makes me think you are the jerk, but it's important to square this down with your fiance. He's an adult and gets to set the rules of who he wants at his graduation, not his mother-in-law or Phil. Your fiance should be the one dealing with all of this and coordinating with everyone, as it's his responsibility. Honestly, consider the implications of marrying into this kind of mess. Am I the jerk for trying to set a boundary with my parents and telling my sibling they're responsible for printing their own work? We have an old printer that has been printing weird. Changing the ink solves the issue sometimes, but not always. My dad changed the ink for it and left for work, telling my sister, who is 16 years old, to try printing a couple of pages to see if it works well. Before my sister came downstairs, my mom kept calling her to come down to try printing. I told my sister to go because mom was calling her, but she did not budge even after hearing my mom call more than 3 times until my little brother came upstairs. He told her, "I told you mom said for you to come down," to which she replied, "I didn't hear you," her go-to excuse. She hears, and I even tell her to, but she does not go until my mom gets angry. She printed the papers to test the printer and it did not work well. When my dad came home from work, he asked me about the other printer we have and what it was missing. I told him I did not know, as he was the one who bought it. He told me to see if it needs ink and if so, to add some. I told him I did not know anything about that printer, and then he told me, "There isn't such a thing as something you don't know. Use YouTube." Then he left. I started to get frustrated because it was not my responsibility to print my sister's papers. I was trying to make things for my small business, so I just walked away from the stairs and told him again, "I do not know." When I went downstairs to help prep for lunch, mom told me that we need to try printing more with the old printer. I then responded and said, "Okay, tell her to try." By her, I was referring to my 16-year-old sister. My mom told me to not talk back to her, and I told her that my sister should just test at the library because they have a better printer and she is actually in a testing environment. My mom then scolded me, telling me I would not reply like that if it was my dad, and then I told her I did reply like that to him earlier. When we sat down to eat lunch, my 2 sisters, who are 16 and 14 years old, both teamed up on me, something they do, and told me I need to be less selfish and not talk back to mom. I then told my 16-year-old sister, the one that needs her own papers printed, that she's printed many for herself, way more than me. It is her responsibility to print her own stuff, because I have my own responsibilities. She then called me selfish, so I told her that she is the one being selfish and lazy because she wants other people to do things for her. I then brought up an example of when she left her jacket on the ground for a while and did not hang her jacket on the hanger. When I told her to hang it, she called me lazy for not hanging her jacket. Again, I told her it is not my responsibility, and she does not seem to understand that. My other sister, who is 14 years old, kept unnecessarily interrupting me while I was trying to say this, and kept telling me to stop talking when I was trying to communicate. Am I the asshole as the title suggests? You did nothing wrong here. Your sister needs to handle the printer herself, especially since you're not a printer technician and can't offer any expertise. It's best to stay out of the situation and not get involved in the arguments with your parents. She'll either figure it out on her own or find another solution, and it's not your responsibility to resolve it for her. Am I the jerk for insisting on getting my deposit back? I am 19 years old and I want to get a neck tattoo. I already have a few pieces on my body, but nothing on my face or neck yet. I traveled to another state to get a tattoo from a particular tattoo artist because I had done intensive research and had seen his work in person on 2 of my friends. I knew he was the best option. To book a tattoo or consultation with this artist or his studio, you have to pay a deposit fee of under $100. I got to the tattoo shop, stayed with my aunts, and went for my appointment. I did my check-in, showed my ID, then went to the tattoo artist. He looked at me and asked how old I was. I told him my age. He walked out of the room to do something, came back and told me that, as a father, he did not think getting a tattoo in that placement was a good idea. He said I was young, and this tattoo would limit my job prospects and how I am perceived. He even asked me what I wanted to do professionally. I was thinking in my mind that this was none of his business, but I still wanted him to do my tattoo. I told him I appreciated the advice, but I knew what I wanted and the consequences, and I still wanted the tattoo. This man, who has tattoos all over his body and has done similar tattoo designs on other people, told me he did not feel comfortable doing tattoos on me. He said he was sorry, but there were other tattoo artists in the studio that I could consult with. I was pissed and annoyed and demanded he give me a refund of my deposits because they were supposed to be subtracted from the tattoo. Since I did not get a tattoo, I wanted my money back. He told me he had no control over that and that I needed to talk to the receptionist. The receptionist said it was not possible, and I basically went off on the tattoo artist because he did not indicate on his website or social media that being a 19-year-old girl was an exception to getting a tattoo. The owner or a manager came and gave me my deposit back in cash to get me out of there. I ranted to my cousin about this whole ordeal, and she felt like I was in the wrong for demanding my money back. Am I the asshole? You are not the jerk. Neck tattoos are a bad idea, especially for a 19-year-old. For less than $100, you got some solid life advice from someone with vastly more knowledge and experience, which is a fair price to pay. He should still refund you your deposit for services not rendered. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.